Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Future So Bright, the Benefits of Attending an HBCU and the Positive Impacts on Future Career Choices. This is part one of a two-part webinar series, The Promise of HBCUs. I'm your host, Kathy McDonald, Assistant Director for Network Partnerships with the Florida College Access Network. FCAN would like to thank the Florida Power and Light Company for their generous support of this webinar. Before we get started today, a few housekeeping items. First, we welcome your questions. Please share those in the Q&A box on your dashboard, which you'll probably see either at the bottom or the top of your screen. Second, please share what you're learning on social media. We love to learn what's resonating with you. We would appreciate it if you'd use the hashtag FCAN or the hashtag TalentStrongFL so we can find you. Finally, this webinar is being recorded. All materials will be available within 1 week of the recording. Okay, I know we have a few new folks, so very briefly, FCAN, if you're not familiar with FCAN, our mission is to lead the collaborative movement to ensure every Floridian achieves an education beyond high school and a rewarding career. Our vision is to see a Florida working together where education is the economic pathway for education is the pathway to economic mobility for all. We accomplish our work in three primary ways. First is through our local college access networks, which are cross-sector coalitions of leaders that collaborate to remove barriers in providing more support for student success. Second, FCAN publishes research and data on evidence-based practices and policy opportunities to strengthen Florida's talent pool. Finally, FCAN coordinates and leads 4 College Ready Florida initiatives that provide schools and community organizations free resources to help students continue their education after high school. Our work is guided by our 7 conditions for success, which you can find out more about on our website. Today's webinar is a great example of many of these conditions, particularly opportunity for everyone and clear information and guidance. Now, let me get over to my handy dashboard. We would love to get you all participating and get some information from you. So, given all of the focus on diversity, equity, inclusion that so many campuses are focused on these days, are HBCUs still relevant? What do you think? Yes? No? Not sure? Go ahead and vote. Give that a couple more seconds for you all to join in here. Okay, so let's end that poll. Well, good. We have a lot of folks joining us and believing that they absolutely are still relevant today, regardless of the focus that so many campuses are bringing to diversity, equity, and inclusion on their campuses and in our employer sites. So great, you're in the right place. Let's go ahead and get started. So I am so thrilled to welcome Whitney Walker, who's the Senior Community Relations Specialist with the Florida Power and Light Company. Whitney, I'm going to stop sharing and welcome.
Well, thank you, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here. On behalf of Florida Power and Light and NextEra Energy, we are so glad that you have all taken the time to be here today and hear more about historically Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs. I'm Whitney Walker, Senior Community Relations Specialist at Florida Power and Light Company and parent company NextEra Energy, where I have the privilege to work in a corporate environment and corporate culture that is focused on its people, focused on setting big goals, executing, and continuously improving in everything that we do. We know that to power the next era, we need the next great minds. And as a company that in 2020 was again named to Forbes magazine's list of America's best employers for diversity. We understand the value of HBCUs, and considering most of you voted, 94% of you actually voted that HBCUs are relevant today, I'm sure that I'm speaking to a like-minded audience. And we are really focused around making sure that we are developing the future leaders of our workforce to encourage a talent-strong Florida. And it's recruiting season. So many of our HR representatives and our employees are out traveling the country right now to HBCUs and making sure that these students know about NextEra Energy and Florida Power and Light Company and have the opportunity to consider taking their future careers to the next level with our organization headquartered here in Juno Beach and Palm Beach County, Florida, in the great state of Florida. And NextEra Energy and Florida Power and Light Company, we're committed to supporting our communities to help make them even better places to live, work, and raise a family. And part of how we do this is by supporting education institutions like HBCUs and programs that enrich students' experiences and heighten their access to greater opportunities. And so as we kick off today's webinar, Florida College Access Network's first part of a two-part series on HBCUs, I'd like to set the tone in high energy and allow you to hear from NextEra Energy's summer college interns as they share their HBCU pride. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Besides being the largest HBCU in the country, there are a ton of people who went there. There are a ton of alumni who were so supportive. Without the alumni, I wouldn't be there in the first place because there are so many of them that I knew who introduced me to the school, who introduced me to the programs, who even introduced me to professors and deans within the college. It was just a really enriching experience.
I love FAMU. People talk about the band, there's the CAF, but what I love most about FAMU is probably the sense of community. We literally are a family. And there's always someone that's willing to help, a new friend. You can meet people every day at FAMU.
I know a current employee here. He set up a meeting with us. We all got to talk. So I kind of get to feel the little Aggie family even while I'm here. Aggie pride, always.
Whenever the alumni who worked here reached out to me and the other interns, it made me feel a lot better only because it felt like I had a little piece of home at NextEra Energy. It was really nice.
And in closing, NextEra Energy is now accepting applications for summer 2022 internships through the month of November. And as we work with Florida College Access Network and their affiliates to build and focus on a talent-strong Florida, we hope you will encourage the current college students you know to consider applying by visiting the college intern jobs at nexteraenergy.com/careers. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Charlita Richardson, Kathy McDonald, and the entire Florida College Access Network team. And without further ado, let's kick off today's webinar.
Wonderful. Yes, it's been a tremendous partnership, and I'm always excited to hear about internship opportunities for our students because, as you know, those early work experiences are critical for students. So let's go ahead and get started today. Let me share my slides again here. Okay, so to give folks a sense of the impact of HBCUs, they represent 3% of US colleges and universities, and they enroll 10% of Florida Black students. They produce 20% of Black college graduates and 25% of Black STEM graduates. In Florida, we are home to 4 HBCUs: Bethune-Cookman University, Edward Waters College, Florida A&M University, and Florida Memorial University. Collectively, they produce $833 million in total economic impact, 7,800 jobs, and $8.6 billion in lifetime earnings. That's according to the United Negro College Fund's landmark study that looked at the economic impact of HBCUs. So to get us started today, I'm thrilled to welcome one of our own, Dr. William E. Hudson Jr., who's the Vice President for Student Affairs at Florida A&M University. Dr. Hudson, welcome, and let me stop sharing so that you can share your slides.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to all attending the webinar. I'll share my slides. So historically, Black colleges and universities were established to serve the educational needs of Black Americans. Prior to the time of their establishment, for many years and for many years afterwards, Black African Americans were generally denied admission to traditionally white institutions. Today, many of these institutions are very diverse, specifically in certain majors. What makes an HBCU experience unique? HBCUs provide a stable and nurturing environment for those most at risk of not entering or completing, which are low-income first-generation college students. Most students are the best and brightest the nation has to offer. However, some may be academically underprepared for college. Yet they're precisely the students that most need to attain their college degrees. HBCUs provide an opportunity for social mobility. And to define social mobility, it is an important factor in the creation of an economic society and is a critical factor for the creation of a healthy economy. Tomorrow's leaders are on our campuses today. HBCU have educated almost 40% of America's Black college graduates. Additionally, 80% of Black federal judges, 85% of all Black doctors, 75% of all Black PhD recipients, 50% of Black engineers, and 46% of all Black business professionals receive their undergraduate training at HBCUs. Moreover, historically Black health profession schools have trained an estimated 40% of Black physicians, 70% of Black veterinarians, 50% of Black pharmacists, and 40% of the nation's Black dentists. This is strong evidence that any parent should consider when helping their student decide where to attend college. We talked about the 4 institutions in the state of Florida. The 3 private institutions, and FAMU is the only public HBCU in the state of Florida. The difference is public HBCUs rely on federal, state, and local funding more heavily than private HBCUs. Private HBCUs are more tuition dependent, which means in many cases, their tuition is a lot higher than the public institution. What we are most proud of at FAMU is that we provide access to a high quality, affordable education to many students who otherwise may have never had the opportunity to fulfill their dreams of getting a college degree. Now, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege and sort of give you some of those highlights, just 10 little things that you should remember about Florida A&M University. First, FAMU is the highest ranked public HBCU for 3 consecutive years in US News and World Report National Public Universities. We are the #1 producer of African-American doctoral degrees in pharmacy, pharmaceutical sciences, and administration. The #1 producer of historical doctoral degrees in all disciplines. We're ranked among the top 10 producers of African-American baccalaureate degrees. We're highly ranked as one of the most affordable colleges in the state of Florida. We're among the top HBCUs for STEM majors. We're a highly ranked university for economic mobility, highly ranked greenest HBCU, a national top college for diversity and inclusion, and we're nationally ranked for online excellence as well. When you come to FAMU, you don't have to prove anything. This is a listing of our 14 colleges and schools that we have. We have 56 bachelor's degrees, 29 master's degrees, 3 professional degrees, and 12 doctoral degrees. As I stated before, one of the most beneficial aspects of an HBCU is that when you come to an HBCU or specifically FAMU, you don't have to prove anything to us except that you're willing to work as hard as the faculty and staff and other cheerleaders who will inspire you to reach for the stars. We believe in the students and their abilities. They're not just a number. There are smaller course sections. Faculty tend to do research directly with the students. And so we build a family atmosphere that is culturally enriching to the students to ensure their success. Our students leave our campus and take on new endeavors, implementing the lessons that they learned about serving others and giving back to their communities while making their impact on the world. Students can enter an environment that is nurturing, stimulating, and progressive. So this afternoon, we welcome this collaboration with FCAN and look forward to many more discussions. And we also want students to remember that they can get anywhere from an HBU, and they can also get anywhere and discover who they can become at FAMU. Kathy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hudson. That's a great introduction and really gives folks a sense of what they can accomplish through an HBCU experience. So with that, I would love to welcome an alumni, Lawrence Howell. If you would join us and share a little about, so first of all, you're sourcing manager at Florida Power and Light. If you can share a little bit about your experience, why you chose an HBCU, and really how that experience really made a difference for you.
Thank you, Kathy. And Dr. Hudson, you was bringing me back. You kind of get me emotional over there looking at all the stats and talking about FAMU. Obviously, I'm an alum of FAMU. My name is Lawrence Howell. I'm a sourcing manager here at Florida Power and Light. And my journey began back in 1994. And my story is a little different as far as how I got to FAMU. Both of my parents are educators and they actually attended Tuskegee University. And Tuskegee was probably the top on my list. But obviously I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and Tuskegee is a private university in which Dr. Hudson already mentioned. Sometimes private universities are a lot more expensive. And growing up in Miami, it's definitely a diverse community, diverse city, but I definitely was gonna go to a HBCU. It was in my mind, that was the plan all along. I wanted to be around people that looked like myself, who are educated, who are trying to get to the same goals that I had. And so I put in applications in high school for every school outside of University of Miami was a HBCU. So I put in for the North Carolina A&Ts, Tuskegee, Howard. But FAMU, unfortunately, I didn't have the funds that I probably needed to get to some of the other universities, which Tuskegee was my first. So I ended up at FAMU. Not that it was less or it wasn't on my list. It was obviously, I'm a state resident, so FAMU was more affordable for myself and my family situation. So I ended up going to FAMU, and it was the best experience in my life. To this day, I always tell people that's the best fun, the best time I've had in my life. Obviously now working and making money, it's a different type of fun that you deal with, but those FAMU, those college days, you can never get back. The experiences that you share with friends, like-minded folks that look like you, is priceless. I know I mentioned to a couple of folks when we were kind of talking about having this webinar, which is, I wish we had more things like this when I was in high school, bringing awareness to the opportunities that are out there for people of African-American descent and Black and colored individuals. So again, I want to thank FCAN for putting this together, but also letting you all hear my story. And FAMU is where I met my wife. She's a doctor in pharmacy. She works for CVS, where I supported my family. Actually, once I got to Florida A&M, I was actually able to get numerous scholarships. I became a General Motors scholar. I graduated with an industrial engineering degree. And FAMU helped me get so many scholarships. I was able to send money home to my parents that kind of helped, support and help my sisters who needed things at the time. So another stat that Dr. Hudson did mention back when I was there from 94 to 99, FAMU was the 1997 Time Magazine Princeton Review College of the Year, back when our Dr. Humphreys, he just actually passed away, but he was our president at the time. And that was at a time when FAMU was at its, to me, it was at its peak. We had, I had a lot of national scholars at our career fairs. We had, GM, Chevy, Ford, Toyota. They all used to come to our career fairs. They used to bring cars. The Florida State kids used to try to sneak in our career fairs, just because that's where all the big top universities, Fortune 100 companies came to recruit minority individuals. So I was definitely there when it was great, had a lot of fun, and have a lot of memories. I'm looking forward to going up in another month for homecoming and going back to the engineering school, which obviously was my second home when I was in Tallahassee. And then I'm definitely going to be open to answering some questions at the end for anybody who has any questions for me. So I won't take too much more time. I hope, you got something from sharing my little experience, but I definitely want to be able to answer some questions at the end when we have a little more.
Thanks, Lawrence. You brought up so many great topics. I can't wait to dive in. Before we do that, though, I want to also welcome Sierra Franco, who is a student at North Carolina A&T State University and a NextEra Energy Summer College intern. You saw her briefly in the video that Whitney shared. Sierra, we would love to hear a little bit from you on why you chose an HBCU and what that experience has meant to you.
Sorry, you guys can hear me, right? Okay, well, hi, everybody. I'm Sierra Franco. I'm a sophomore chemical engineering student here at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. There are many reasons why I chose to come here. One of the biggest reasons is because I was actually awarded a full ride scholarship. So that was probably the biggest factor. But even before, I was really interested in the school because we have great STEM programs, lots of opportunity for research. There's also like a very large career fair that the school hosts, which is actually where I first interacted with NextEra and Florida Power and Light. So because of that, there are definitely many experiences that have shaped me into the person that I am today, but I really do enjoy the school that I go to. And I think that everybody listening would also enjoy going to an HBCU. There are just a lot of things that you'll be able to be exposed to that will really, shape who you are. It'll help you learn how to navigate different situations. There are so many things that are, so many things that are going to be able to help you develop into a better person if you come to an HBCU.
Great. Thanks so much, Sierra, for sharing a little bit to get us started. Okay, if Dr. Hudson and Lawrence can join us back in our virtual panel, Sierra, you too, so we can start sharing some questions and digging a little deeper. Lawrence touched on some of these topics, as did Sierra and Dr. Hudson. First, one of the things that I think so many of us hear about when we talk about an HBCU experience is really that sense of community and that sense of belonging. And so I'm curious as to know what that looked like for you. So Lawrence, you touched on a little bit, but can you tell a little bit more about what was that sense of community like and how did that make a difference in your college experience?
Yes, definitely. When I was on the campus, obviously I was among like-minded people that looked like myself. And that was the first time that I actually been in a situation. My high school in Miami was pretty diverse, Hispanic, Black, and white. But being in Tallahassee, being on FAMU's campus, the friendships you see, the culture that you grow. Obviously, I'm proud to be Black and was raised, by some proud parents that taught me those traits and what's important. But when you actually get to being around it 24/7 and seeing other classmates and attaining relationships that I still have today, both personal and professional, is priceless. I mean, I can talk all day. I get excited when I start thinking about my friends and the times that we had back at Florida A&M. It just was miraculous. It was just awesome. And again, it's that community, that Black, that powerful community that you see of like-minded, educated folks that's having a good time. They're just, everybody's just beautiful. Everybody's just trying to do the right thing at that time. And it's just a great feeling. So thanks for asking that question, Kathy.
Yeah, thanks. Sierra, what did that sense of community look like for you? You're still living and breathing the experience now.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm in my second year, but the sense of community is probably one of the best, the perks of going to an HBCU, I believe. I've heard horror stories at different schools about students kind of competing with each other for opportunities, or, not wanting to study with one another because they don't want other people to almost be as smart as them or have, the highest grade in the class, so they'll kind of isolate themselves. But I've experienced almost the opposite here. For example, yesterday, even we didn't understand one of the lectures we had. So another friend of mine in the class was like, I'm going to organize a study group, look out for that. Also, whenever there are opportunities that we may come across, whether it be a scholarship or a program or a club or something like that, I've had many people send opportunities that they think I would be interested in to me. And I've done the same for a few of my other friends. So there's a environment where people are really willing to help each other, even people that you don't know too well. It might just be another person in your class, but they're definitely willing to help you, whether it's through GroupMe, through if you're texting or FaceTiming people, or in the class itself. I just feel like everybody is very supportive. I don't feel like I'm competing at all, and I feel like it's a very friendly environment. I think it's an environment where anybody can really flourish in.
Wonderful, great example. Dr. Hudson, I'm going to turn to you. You touched on it briefly in your opening remarks about how HBCUs are intentional about providing support and developing the strengths of their students. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like?
Absolutely. And Lawrence, just letting you know, I'm a little older than you. I came in 1990, but I was still here when you were here. So I'm glad I can bring back those memories, and we look forward to seeing you during homecoming. So we're very intentional, and I think all HBCUs are intentional in developing leaders, working on soft skills. We communicate with our networks of Fortune 500 companies, from Boeing to NASA to Google, and they also provide input in how we structure our curriculum in our classrooms, but also in preparing students for their internships and also interviewing. So our Career Center actually begins working with students prior to them even enrolling in the school to make sure that their career focus and their majors are actually the majors that they want to be involved in. And then from that process, we do everything from resume critiquing to interview practice sessions, and we make that a part of our structured environment so that students, number one, have the confidence when they go into these boardrooms and when they meet these dignitaries that they are a FAMU grad student and they are ready for the challenges of this global economy. But not only does FAMU do that, all HBCUs do that. That's why that connectedness that Sierra talked about and that ability to work as a collective group for the success of everyone in the community is a cultural icon for HBCUs. And so we meet each other, although we may be competitive in football and athletics and band and other things. We know when we see someone with a North Carolina A&T shirt or a FAMU shirt or a Howell shirt, there's that connectedness of family that you have with HBCUs. And we want to see everyone succeed. We don't succeed as a group unless everyone succeeds. I know the adage that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. That's how we see each other at HBCUs. And that's why we encourage, we prepare, and we make sure that companies know that we have the best and brightest that there is to offer from our communities to help them succeed in their goals.
Yeah, and Sierra, you touched on it a little bit too in terms of some of those intentional supports about, things like career support being built into some of your coursework. So can you talk a little bit about how you're experiencing it while being on a campus, how they're intentionally thinking through how to develop you and your peers?
Of course. Like Dr. Hudson said, at North Carolina A&T, we also do have the Office of Career Services, which will walk you through resume critiquing. They'll teach you how to write a cover letter, also critique your cover letter. I'm pretty sure they might do the same thing with scholarship essays as well. And they also do a lot of mock interviews and like practice like interview question type things. So in that sense, there's a lot of professional development. But I had a freshman seminar class where they actually had an assignment where making a like all-star LinkedIn profile was one of the assignments. If you didn't have the all-star, you didn't get an A. So kind of making sure that our, I guess you could call it like our virtual presence and our physical presence are on the, as top as good as they can be. That to me is one way that's been really helpful, that they've integrated professional development and our schoolwork kind of together. I think it's really, really important that they do that. And I don't want to compare between PWIs and HBCUs, but I also do recall last semester, I had a friend who was asking me like, did I build my LinkedIn profile? Did I, what did I put on it? And I didn't want to like brag or anything, but I was like, I did that, last semester, like I already have an internship. So, they definitely set you up and they do it early. They make sure to tell you when to get it, when you need it done by. There's a lot of structure when it comes to that, but they provide so much guidance that it's almost hard to not know how to do some of these things.
Yeah, great. In our space, we often talk about what we call social capital, which is, that sense of meeting folks on campus who become your, part of your lifelong network. Lawrence, I'm thinking about you and can you speak a little bit to some of the authentic connections you made on campus that opened doors years afterwards?
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, I spoke on this before, and I definitely wouldn't be the man that I am today if it wasn't for my wife, who I met on FAMU's campus, and she was a pharmacy major, and I was an industrial engineer. So we studied a lot. So we actually met in the library, which is a kind of cute story. But I remember my mother told me before when I went off to college, and she said, "You make sure you find your wife in college, because once you leave college, the numbers are down and you're not with like-minded folks." And that always stuck in my head, but it didn't happen to like third, fourth year. And I met this beautiful woman who is my wife now. And, we connected, and now we have a beautiful family, been married 15 years and counting. And that's really the biggest piece of it. Obviously, I talked about other friends that I still hang with. I was just with one last weekend in Atlanta. And I have some professional friends here at Florida Power and Light. Actually, the person that recruited me was a Tuskegee alum, and he gave me some good insights that I use to this day, like making sure I max out my 401k, like little things when you are part of a community like a HBCU, nuggets are shared with you that sometimes are not shared from other individuals who may not have the same type of care or interests that you may have. So I try to share those same nuggets with folks, pretty much with everybody, but definitely taking interest in the people that look like me, that have certain opportunities and certain things that they may not get in other settings. So that social piece, you got to use it to the day you die, truthfully. And hopefully my most important one will happen till the day I die, and keep that as a success relationship. And, I have that's truly probably 50% of being at that HBCU, being at FAMU. It definitely, it was a life-changing event.
Great example. Sierra, I know you talked a little bit or shared a little bit about, you had this internship this summer and where you worked connected you with other HBCU folks, not only from your own institution, but from others. So talk a little bit about how that social capital translated and helped you prepare for and feel a little more comfortable in that corporate environment.
Honestly, helped me feel a lot more comfortable with the corporate environment, knowing that people who are coming from the same place that I'm coming from have made it and are succeeding in that environment. I don't have any engineers in my family, so when it comes to studying engineering and like navigating the world of engineering as a career, it's a little bit confusing to me only because I don't have any other examples to look up to. But when you have alumni, so they may not necessarily be your parent or grandparent, but if it's a friend or if it's a friend of a friend or somebody that you just have a background in common with, it makes it so much more easier to kind of gain a little bit of insight, like like Lawrence said, or when it comes to even asking for help or like when do they recruit, little things like that, little inside kind of knowledge that you wouldn't have before. That's something that becomes more available to you when you have that HBCU background or even that specific, we go to the same university type background. That makes it a lot easier. So meeting some of the alumni from my school at Next Era helped me to feel a lot more comfortable with the idea of pursuing engineering as a career. And it made me realize that there are other engineers in this world just like me. If I'm not seeing it in my family, I'm seeing them at my school and beyond. So it's really, really nice. And I think that even if you're not considering engineering as a career, I think you'll still be able to find the same type of support in the professional world.
Love the example you gave because, one of the things we talk about in Planet Florida is students often can't be what they can't see. And so through this extended network, you're getting exposed to all these other careers you may not have known about that starts to inform a little more concretely where you want to take your career once you graduate. So great example. Dr. Hudson, we've touched on career success, but talk a little bit more about how HBCUs prepare students for their career, not only career success, but really success in life.
Well, absolutely. And Sierra did an excellent job talking about the networking that resides within the HBCU community. And with our alumni throughout the world, they come back and they provide those nuggets of wisdom that Lawrence talked about, but it also provides an avenue for life experiences. You have people at HBCUs that come from all over the world. A lot of people look at HBCUs and think that someone couldn't get into a Harvard, a Yale, a Duke, a North Carolina, when in actuality, they have options of where they can go throughout this nation. But they choose the HBCU because of the experience, because of the cultural enrichment. But it also establishes a sense of pride, a sense of legacy, and it gives them the confidence to be able to perform in any atmosphere globally. We prepare students for the global economy, and that's done through the world-renowned faculty that we have and the relationships we have from businesses throughout the nation and globally. Actually, currently, FAMU is having a career fair where we have over 400 companies that are recruiting our students and actually interviewing them today for internships, but also for job opportunities. Our goal is to make sure that every student has at least one job offer by their senior year. And so they get an opportunity to have those real world hands-on experiences because in our curriculums in some of our majors, they are required before they complete their education to have an internship at many of these companies and get that real world experience. And so it's very beneficial for those students to have those experiences, and they can do that through an HBCU.
Lawrence, you shared a little bit about how that your experience at FAMU really helped prepare you for career and beyond. And I think you left with more than one job offer, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. I had 5 job offers actually.
Nice.
When I left FAMU, and General Motors, which I was a scholar, was my highest offer, and it was in Buffalo, New York, and Florida Power and Light was actually my lowest offer. But I actually took my lowest offer, and I tell people a 22-year-old, normally doesn't do that. They see the money and they run. But obviously, I'm a Florida guy, and every engineering position or offer that I got outside of Florida Power and Light was north of Virginia, and I'm not too keen about being in cold weather. So that had a big factor to play with me accepting the job with Florida Power and Light and being obviously back home with family. And actually, I want to mention one of my good friends, McKinley Romeo, who's part of, actually was part of putting this together. And he mentioned my name to be part of this webinar and this panel. And he went to Florida State, actually, but we were both in industrial engineer. One good thing about being at FAM is you share engineering school with Florida State, so you get certain, money privileges, sometimes, equipment and things like that. That helps FAMU students get the skill set that we need. So yeah, 5 offers. Here I am going on 23 years. So obviously, I think I made the right decision, and I go back every now and then. I should have been up there recruiting, but because of the pandemic, they kind of reduced our travel. But I've been going up to do recruiting Dr. Hudson for Florida Power and Light for the past, 2 or 3 years before the pandemic started. So I usually make a trip to go to the engineering school, see some old professors and deans, and definitely, I definitely don't think I would have had as many offers if I didn't go to FAMU.
Great example, and certainly don't blame you. I spent 40 years in very cold Chicago winter, so that is why I live in Florida now. So, just at a really basic level, I'll jump it back to Sierra. Why should a student consider an HBCU as a near peer?
I think there are many, many reasons why students should consider an HBCU. We have a lot of supportive faculty here. If Dr. Hudson and Mr. Lawrence Howell didn't kind of show you how supportive the network can be, you should definitely check it out for yourself. But there's so many professors who are willing to help, professors who are, kind of flexible, and faculty just in general that will really support you and help you get where you need to go. Like I said before, I don't feel like it's a very competitive environment here. I don't feel like I'm fighting to be heard or fighting to not be ignored. I feel like I'm listened to when I reach out to a professor, when I reach out to my advisor. I feel like they're definitely very receptive. I also think that we have a lot of positive role models here. It's not great to choose a school based on the amount of notable alumni they have, because just because somebody else is famous doesn't mean it'll be the best fit for you. But there are definitely many role models who have come from HBCUs or who have been influenced by HBCUs. So there's a lot that you can look forward to when you get here. And on top of that, I know a lot of people may be worried about diversity when it comes to going to an HBCU. You may think that because, you're surrounded by majority Black students that, you're not going to get, so diverse, and it won't be like almost good practice for the real world. But that couldn't be further from the truth. I've met so many different people, not only from different parts of the country, but from different backgrounds. For example, before I came here, I didn't know anybody who had been to private school. Now, all 3 of my suite mates were actually in private or boarding school. What else? I've met just a ton of different people, and that's within, I guess you could call like the COVID restrictions. So if I'm meeting so many new people while I'm being restricted, it's almost, I can't imagine how many people I would have met had we had more freedom on campus. But there's a lot that you can look forward to if you go to an HBCU. And if any students need help when it comes to deciding or doing research, if you want to know more about North Carolina A&T in general, I would definitely be happy. Feel free to reach out, because I would love to answer any of the questions that you have and kind of give you the student's perspective of what I enjoy about it, what I really like here.
Sorry, I'm muted. Lauren, same question to you. Why should a student consider an HBCU?
Oh, if y'all haven't listened to me this whole time, but it's just life-changing, truthfully. It's literally the best fun I ever had. I got to go travel with friends to their homes during spring break and Christmas breaks when I didn't go home. seeing parts of the world that I would have never saw if I didn't have that relationship, hearing certain music, growing on certain things, eating certain foods. Growing up in Miami, like I mentioned, it's diverse, but when you go and you see other parts of the US and the world and go home with people that embrace you, especially from the Black and African American community, that community becomes even larger. And the HBCU experience in general just brings the world pretty much to your feet, to your doorstep. And I can't imagine how I would be, truthfully, if I didn't. I can't really pump it up as bigger than that. It's who I am. And it played a very important part of my life.
Yeah, great. Dr. Hudson, a related question is, in our world, we often talk about fit and match. We want students to find the right fit and match. There's no one institution that's the right fit for every student. And so as students are considering where they might want to go, it could be things like distance from home, academic rigor. It could be athletics or the social environment. So as you think about students who would benefit the most and thrive the most in your campus and or other HBCUs, what students would you think should really be considering an HBCU?
Well, that's an easy answer. All students. HBCUs have everything to offer to all students from all walks of life. Our goal is to make sure that we educate them and prepare them for a global economy. And so I do believe in students finding the right fit and feeling comfortable. And that's what they should look for when they're looking at their institution for higher education. As I think Sierra said it best when talking about how to, why students should choose an HBCU. It is because of the relationships that they establish. I think that they should visit the campuses to make sure that they feel comfortable. Similar to Lawrence, I don't like cold weather. And so I had several offers as well, even for graduate school. And that's the other part that a lot of people don't know. HBCUs prepare students to be successful in graduate school as well, not just for the world of work. And so we have programs like our graduate feeder program where we feed other institutions of higher education some of the best and brightest. I spent 14 years at Florida State University developing the CARE program. And when I left, the students would always ask me, why do FAMU students get the best internships? And I would have to tell them that companies come to FAMU looking for the best and brightest persons of color that they know can handle themselves in the boardroom, in the research labs, and help develop the new technology that we're seeking for moving forward for our futures. And so I just think all students should have an HBCU experience, regardless of their background, because it develops the entire person. We look at the holistic individual, not just the academic side, but the entire individual to help them be a great contributor to society.
Great, wonderful. I want to make sure we have some time for our questions from the audience. Julie's asking, she says her state does not have an HBCU. Does it make sense for low-income students to apply to an HBCU out of state if they will lose out on state funding? I guess I'll throw that over to Dr. Hudson.
Absolutely. When we look at funding, there are other opportunities from other organizations to get scholarship dollars. There are a lot of scholarship dollars for students that are out there. Now they have to apply, they have to actually meet the academic criteria for those scholarships, but there are millions of dollars that are out there for students, both in state and out of state. In some bordering states, you may have access to additional funds. But also look at the alumni associations. that are throughout the nation. They offer scholarship dollars as well for those students. And there's some institutional funding, depending on the student's major, that can help. Of course, there's the federal funding with the federal Pell Grant, and some states have other funding that students can receive as well. And after they've been in state for a certain amount of time, they can apply for in-state residency, or what we call an out-of-state waiver. And that's also based on income and also academics once they arrive to the university. So there are methods. And I know that Florida Power and Light also offers scholarships for students to go to school. So I want to give a shameless plug to them as well.
Well, and Whitney, obviously you bring the employer perspective of recruiting from them. So what would you like to ask our wonderful panel today?
Well, I have two questions. The first is for Dr. Hudson. So, in thinking about the concept of intersectionality, that exposure to diversity can benefit anyone from any background. And if diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of the foundation for sustainability, what would you tell the audience? Are HBCUs only for Black students?
Absolutely not. And that was why I started my preface by saying that we're more diverse than most people think. They hear HBCU and they think that it is totally Black. And so while the majority of students are African American or Black, there are a significant amount of students that are actually from other backgrounds, be it white, Hispanic, Indian. And if you look at certain majors, it's practically about 50-50. When you look at engineering, and I know Lawrence saw a lot of that at the FAMU, FSU engineering, pharmacy, business, nursing, architecture, majors that, and STEM majors, you have a diverse group of not only students, but faculty and staff as well. And so we don't discriminate against anyone coming to a HBCU. It is open for all students from all backgrounds, and we welcome that, because that is the nature of the world, and we want to prepare our students for a global economy. And our economy is not all Black, it's not all white, it's not anything. We're in this together, and that's how we teach our students.
Thank you for that. And my next question is for Sierra. Sierra participated in the video that everyone in the audience saw, and she blew us away at her confidence. And it was interesting because she was the only participant of that video who was a freshman. And it was her internship during the summer of her freshman year. Sierra, can you talk a little bit to the audience about the confidence that you've strengthened yourself with, that you found at your HBCU?
Yes, I wish that's something that I mentioned earlier, actually, because I was speaking to my aunt, who was an alumni of the school of North Carolina A&T, and she even noticed that. She told me I really broke out of my shell this past year. So when I tell you that I would not be here today, like a year ago, I would not be speaking in front of you all. I wouldn't feel confident enough to be where I am right now. Words cannot explain how grateful I am that this school has instilled a lot of confidence in me and even given me the skills to fake it when I don't have the confidence. It's really hard to explain, honestly. I can't verbalize it, how much I've grown in this past year, how many risks I've taken that have ended up, working out for me. This whole entire internship, I was just throwing my application, I was just throwing my resume into the pool of others and kind of cross my fingers hoping it got picked. There are so many people who have encouraged me throughout the process of not only applying to internships, but being in college in general. So many people who have encouraged me to, talk to this professor or talk to your advisor about this, and that the other people who have been, encouraging me and kind of bringing me up, they have helped me to get opportunities like this, not only opportunities to speak in front of you all, but opportunities like my internship, opportunities to volunteer with other students who are doing research, opportunities to be a part of certain organizations and work and do community service with them. There are different things that I've been exposed to because of the, the confidence and the kind of breaking out of my shell that I've been able to do. It's really helped me grow a lot. It's so hard to explain. Like, I wish I could verbalize it better, but I've noticed that I've grown a lot. Other people have noticed that I've grown a lot, and it's really, really important. I think if I were to go to another school, I don't think I would be as confident, or I don't think I would be the same type of person that I am today. So it's so, so important to go to an institution, even if it's not an HBCU, go to an institution where you feel like you'll be built up, where you'll be supported, where you feel like you can grow as a person. Because if you don't grow as a person, then your degree isn't, it isn't everything. You need to make sure that you're developing as a person as well.
I think that's great advice for every student. You just hit it out of the ballpark. Go to the school where you feel like you can be your whole self and be accepted as your whole self. Wonderful. Okay, Crystal from the audience, Dr. Hudson, I'm going to throw this over to you. She's asking, how can community and state colleges best prepare their students for a transfer experience to an HBCU if they're beginning their two-year journey with them? And then how do they connect with you all and help make sure that they're being set up for success?
Well, that's a great question, Crystal, and something that we've established at FAMU. All state institutions have articulation agreements with the Florida college system. However, at FAMU, we've increased that. We call it our MOUs on steroids. And so we have articulation agreements that go even deeper than just students being able to transfer. If they want to reach out to us, we're looking to establish MOUs with other state agencies, FCS institutions, because right now we have about 18 that we have this increased MOU and articulation agreement, where we actually work with those FCS institutions on the curriculum to make sure students have taken all the prerequisite coursework prior to transferring to the university to make sure they stay on track to graduate within the next 2 years. And so we have training sessions with their advisors at the FCS. We work with their academic departments, but we also offer incentives to students if they indicate that they want to be a part of the FAMU Ignite program. So if they would reach out to me, I'll connect them with our staff. We have certain liaisons for each institution. So I'd love to get an MOU established with those FCS institutions to help them learn more about our process and our program. And we also have a reverse transfer opportunity where if students transfer prior to getting their degree from the FCS, once they get here, we communicate directly through technology with the FCS to make sure they know that the students have received enough credit hours to earn their AA degree. So we have a great process, and we'd like to get more FCS institutions involved. And that's another benefit of an HBCU. We take that community feeling to the FCS for students who want to stay at home for those first 2 years and then transfer. And then we also offer scholarships for transfer students who are part of our Ignite program.
Wonderful. Okay, I think we only have time for about one more question, so we're gonna make this a short one. In response to Whitney's question about, are HBCUs for Black students only, you said absolutely not. Your doors are open. So Jolanda is asking, how are you communicating that HBCUs are not only for Black students, so that there's more of an understanding that the doors are open to, many of our students throughout the state?
So we're communicating to our high schools and our FCS institutions that we are open and that we have these opportunities for everyone. And we're also making sure that we communicate it in different languages as well, such as Spanish. And so if they go to our website, they can click on it and we can make they'll be able to, parents as well as students can read it in Spanish. And we also have faculty and staff that also recruit students, because as you said before, students want to see people who look like them on our campus. And that is another mechanism that we use. And so we advertise a lot throughout the state and throughout the nation that we're open for everyone, but the key is to apply early. That is the best key that to show that students are interested. Apply early because those who apply early receive more funding and more scholarship dollars.
That's a great way to end, and that's true regardless of where you go. Apply early, fill out your FAFSA, get all of the financial aid that you're entitled to. With that, I am so grateful to Dr. Hudson, Whitney Walker, Lawrence Howell, and Sierra Franco for spending some time with us today to really give us a sense of, that what makes an HBCU special and why it's still such a critical and important piece of the education ecosystem. Now, I want to make sure folks know about upcoming webinars. We have one on October 7th. This is on supporting the college success needs of Black students, findings from Florida student surveys, Helios Education Foundation partnered with the Hope Center to better understand the college decision-making process in support needs of Black students. They'll be sharing their findings during that October 7th webinar from 1 to 2. If you're not already subscribed to our Florida College Access list, we encourage you to do so. That way you won't miss updates on any upcoming webinars, policy briefs, and promising practices that we share. With that, have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining us today.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.